Europe has two types of countries. I heard this. I don't know where it's coming from. I like it very much. Two types of countries. One type of countries, they know they are small. And another type of European countries, they don't know that they are not big enough.
Welcome, everyone. Today we've got Zoltan Wirth with us. Zoltan, welcome.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Christian.
It's great to have you here, but I would like everybody to get to know you a little bit better, of course. That's the reason that you're here. So if you don't mind, tell us what you do.
Well, I am just reshaping right now to the next level. I've worked up to now for big international companies on a global scale. I was in executive positions for many, many years. And now I am just in the transition because I left the last big company, which was called Airbus Defence and Space, end of June. And I can focus my attention to new things, whatever I wanted to do and always wanted to do to make it really happen now.
Excellent. I mean, it's not a small company that you're left recently, but let's start from the beginning. If you don't mind, tell me a little bit your trajectory, where you're from, how everything started. We don't have to go in like, I know you've probably done quite a lot of things, but yeah, let's see a little bit of an overview of the story.
Okay, let's try it. So I was born in Hungary, behind the Iron Curtain, and this is getting interesting, especially to the political landscape. And I grew up there. I get a scholarship in Germany during the time when the Iron Curtain went down. So I was joining from Germany and with my new diploma for telecommunication into a new globalized world. Okay, and then I started to work with Siemens, and I worked for over 20 years with Siemens, and I worked always globally. I had the luxury to work with great companies like Siemens and Airbus on the global scale and 5 continents, building new businesses and being part of all this globalization effort, what happens, and especially I was very, very interested on glasnost and perestroika, because they gave us the peace and the prosperity we needed to grow in Europe, grow together, and shape the world in the right direction.
It's amazing because, I mean, even just with your first sentences, I can already mentally, I'm linking your background, like the moment that you were born, and you were probably a prime example of you moving into, Germany with a scholarship and so forth. Already proven that breaking down of the wall and so forth. But it's really interesting to see how that probably guided you somehow in your way into where you ended up in Airbus Defence and so forth. So that's really interesting. Tell me a little bit about Siemens. What happened there? Where did you start?
Siemens, it was also a tremendous and great experience. I started 1991 with Siemens, just after I had my diploma, because, the Iron Curtain went down, and Siemens needed the people with the mindset from the east side of Europe. And we were merging together, and I had the opportunity to grow with these businesses of Siemens. And Siemens wanted to establish also in Hungary, where I was born, some project. And very honestly, I worked for 3 months in a project in Siemens and never, ever again in my life, okay? But the world is big. So I have worked on the other 99% of the world for Siemens, and typically it was everything about public sector, telecommunication, security, mission critical stuff.
What year was that, more or less?
Oh, it was started in 1991, and it was until 2011. And we moved the family on different projects. We lived in California a little bit, Florida. Siemens had also some global headquarters in Switzerland, so we were in Zug. It was great experience, but we always came back to Munich, and this became our family hub until very recently. Of course, if I see you around here, it is a very good candidate for the next time.
You're still looking to relocate? You've always got your options open, or?
If you were traveling and you have friends all around the world, you ask sometimes the question, and if you can design now completely freely, what is the spot? And it is very hard to say because it is a combination of a couple of very, very great spots, which you would like to keep and definitely not abandon. But you are not forced to live on one spot all your time. And we shall see. This is part of the reshaping.
The year has many seasons as well, so different locations
Exactly.
fit into different moments of the year and so forth. So, and obviously me personally, I'm very happy to see that you're here at this time of the year. So that's always a good step. But sorry, I interrupted you there before. So we're talking about Siemens. Obviously, first part, not ideal start that you were doing. And from there, you started working more globally. You mentioned cybersecurity and so forth. And it's interesting because obviously cybersecurity, defense, it's really relevant nowadays. But it's funny to see that you've been in that field for so many years as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Security was always a core question in every big company. For every government, it was always a big question how to deal with security in different level. Okay, it is IT security, it is cyber security, you name it, or physical security. 20 years ago, it started with the surveillance, with the cameras, and then the intelligent algorithms, and all these kind of things. It's already happened. We worked within Siemens with Princeton University. We had algorithms. We haven't called them AI agents at this time, but all these things are started many, many years ago and evolved in a much more comprehensive and holistic level. And this is the fascinating to our times, that all these technologies that we are seeing around us, it went crazy. In ballistic, I mean exponential. And this is not one technology, not just the cloud, or it is just your telecommunication, 5G, 6G. It is robotics, it is genetics, and all this, and they are overlapping each other, and it brings a huge boost on the whole technology cycles, but also a tremendous challenge to all decision makers. And all decision makers, this could be a business unit head, because he should understand all these technologies at the same time and the impact on his particular business to make the right decisions. And of course, on the next level, to the regulators or the governments, how to cope with that. So, and I am really happy that I had the chance to work for a great company, which was always connected to these fancy technologies and being part of this evolution.
So, covered Siemens. At what moment did Airbus fall on the table, or how did that process work?
Airbus, if I mention Airbus, it's always fancy because I have to say, but I never built aircraft, okay?
No. Yeah.
No. Well, I did find, because when I was a young guy, I built airplane models, and there was even competitions and all this kind of thing. My mom told, you are not allowed to fly because it's too dangerous, and that's why I stay with the roots on the ground. So Airbus was also a great experience, and I had 15 years with the company, and I had different kind of functions within the company, but always related to mission critical communication. And if you look at Airbus, what Airbus is doing, it's really all mission critical stuff on a very safe and great level. It is just about the airplanes. You are very confident if you know that the airplane is coming from Airbus, it's safe, and all this kind of infrastructure is good. Or satellite communication. It became part of our life. Nowadays, you can take your cell phone and you are lost in the hills in Colorado. You have a chance to talk to them. And also, all these kind of systems, if you look another part of Airbus Defence and Space, where I was part of, then of course public safety, defense is getting to the next level. It is another meaning of mission critical communication, because it is really the part where lives matters. And we took it always very seriously.
What is for that particular department, what is the objective? Because obviously I can understand now that you explain it, obviously, when we're talking about the relevance of communication. Obviously, an aircraft needs to be able to communicate at all times and so forth, reachable. But now, obviously, I think we're moving into a new era, right? Now it's that it needs to be, you must be able to reach and to communicate with the aircraft and so forth, and creating the network and infrastructure, but it also needs to be protected. So I could take it that was a big, it takes a lot of hours of your day back in those days.
Yeah, it's definitely. We are talking about different type of networks, okay? And the more we are getting to this kind of mission critical stuff, is more regulations, how it's have to be applied and used. But there is also very simple examples for secure communication. For example, just take the police and the gendarmerie. They have this kind of communicator, they walkie-talkie, and they are talking to each other. And it's working also if you have a disaster case. So it's have to be resilient. And typically it's not just one network, because one trick pony exists, but it's much better to have different type of ponies to make the whole ride at the end. And therefore how you bring different kind of communication means to the right level, that if one network is failing, you have then still, for example, via satellite, an additional backup option, and so on and so forth, and how you orchestrate it. And this is the intelligence portion of the things, how you bring these things together. And this is exactly the stage what engineers always love to do endless interoperability design. And now with 5G, 6G, you have this kind of interoperability by design and by standard. And this brings everything to the completely next level. How we use it, okay, this is...
That's next step, of course.
This is the next step. But at least technologically, and all this orchestration I was talking about, how you manage, and in which cases this network is the best suitable, or another network, which can be trusted in which situation, which can be compromised, or it can be orchestrated now with AI support in a much effective way.
Obviously, but as you were talking, I keep getting these flashbacks from quite recently. In Spain, we've recently had a blackout. So obviously, one part is the electricity, right? And I remember, I'm just putting this at a complete personal level. I remember when all of a sudden I couldn't get out of my garage, that the door wouldn't open and so forth. Fine. Electricity is gone. Fine. It happens sometimes. But all of a sudden you realize that at the same time, the cell service is not working. And then all of a sudden it's the combo of both. And you realize after a certain period of time, it's the lack of communication. And when those networks aren't there, it makes a big difference. So then we're going back analog. I mean, I remember like I had an old radio, a transistor, just to hear, I mean, what's going on. In my case, I didn't get electricity back until I think it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I think the electricity left around 11 o'clock in the morning. So, it's long hours. But for me, that impacted very, it was the combination of both the electricity and the communication. But you realize that the communication part is a lot more critical. So, any views of you who are in this industry? What's your take on it?
Of course, this kind of experience is never good, and of course, as private person, we are not prepared for that. But there are other organizations; they are exactly prepared for such a kind of cases, and they know exactly, because they trained exactly, and therefore they have special dedicated networks which survive such a disaster situation to a certain level. Mm-hmm. And if one network is failing, then they typically have a backup network and the third network. And typically, if there is no electricity, which is definitely some needed, then they have battery packs. And depending on the design and the urgency and the use case we are talking about, it could be backing up the electricity needs, like generators and all this kind of stuff, for days, weeks, or forever, let's say, depending on the use case. And this became obvious how important it is to us. Because if you have it for 2 hours, it's not that bad, okay? If you're having that 1 day long, then you recognize that your fridge is melting, and then in the second day, your beer getting warm. and here in Marbella, it is sunny times. This is not good. And then in 3 days, the people are getting hungry. Okay, and And this is an evolution where you don't want to have electricity leakage and blackout longer than this time because people are getting nervous. But even if it happens, you need the other forces like police, gendarmerie, whoever it's called in different countries, disaster recovery, that they can communicate. And the final result is if nothing working because everything is flooded, then you have still the satellites. And the best thing now, even in our regular cell phones, you have such a functions. And we are just starting. So it's all this with the AI, with the chips, and with the microelectronics, what is existing today. It is even frightening if you say, "All my life is documented here on my phone." You don't want to lose it anymore.
No, exactly. Yeah.
You know, it was an interesting question. It's remind me just some people were asked in a panel what they would prefer if they would lose their portemonnaie with all the documents, money inside, or their phone. What do you think? What was the answer, or what is your answer?
I think maybe due to age and a little bit of my background, I would still, phone would be replaceable at the end of the day. So I would still stay with the other part. But I must admit, I think I'm one of the odd ones, I gotta say.
Okay, and this panel was a little bit more polarized, the result.
Okay.
And therefore it's also so important because depending which kind of phone you have, the recovery process could be a very painful, endless,
Exactly.
or it's everything said and done and one button pushed and working again. But it brings a big question on security, because security is always connected also with data security and data privacy. Because if you have a backup, then where your backup, what is on the phone with all your password, is stored and how it's stored. Is it decentralized and centralized, or is it again a next centralized point of failure? But this is the scientists and the technologists and the engineers working on that to make it all combined. And this is also something which tied back a little bit to the blockchain technology, because it's decentralized. And if defense decentralized, then you don't have this one point failure in the centralized way.
Now I'm starting to see where your passion for blockchain comes, and obviously why you're here. Obviously, we got the bridge event. It's actually happening in a couple of hours. So yeah, if you tell me a little bit, because I know that now some percentage of your mind is moving into blockchain. I think it's been there for a while, but now that you were talking about the step in your life professionally that you're in right now, is blockchain playing a part in it?
Absolutely. And blockchain was quite a long time already on my mind, because when we're talking about secure communication and mission critical, in defense also decentralized systems are more reliable. If you have digital information, you have to be sure that it's authentic before you enter the code, okay? And all these things is by design part of the blockchain, and all the technology is highly secure, which is also, so to your question, cybersecurity, all this coming together. And here, of course, with the blockchain, you have different type of use cases. And now we are somewhere in the blockchain and crypto world where we went through the storming with all the bankruptcies, and we are in the norming. We have regulations,
especially here in Europe.
And also US with the Clarity Act and Genius Act. You can make this word for big institutional governmental use also feasible. And this is what's happening. And I hope that we are just an age of the performing stage of this ecosystem, and we can lay back and the very fascinating part, which I personally also interested, the tokenization of the real world assets. It's of course in Marbella, it's always it's real estate
it's always the first step. It always is.
But if you look in other industries, you have digital twins. So everything is digital. It has to be authentic. It cannot be modified by somebody. Or you want to track the supply chain for pharma industry, and you have to be really sure that this is the recipe of this medicament and is not altered by somebody for whatever kind of intention. And just throwing in a couple of use cases in different industries where such a kind of technology can bring really value.
You're probably the right person to ask, because obviously I've been talking to people who are strongly specialized in quantum computers. And some of them say that obviously the main pillar of blockchain is that it's unhackable or unbreakable and so forth. However, some of these people who specialized in quantum computers say that it's only a matter of time until quantum computing can actually hack blockchain in general. I know that we've got the anti-quantum networks and so forth. How do you see a future in that?
It is a very good question. And you can definitely run different kind of panel discussion for hours and weeks. And it depends on who is your counterpart and which kind of believer is him in person. You can come to different conclusion. But probably we can simplify this. Mm-hmm. If you have the best technology for certain application today, which is provenly secure, why wouldn't do it today with the best available technology? Just because probably in 5 years' time would be another technology which could compromise this. It would be the same if you say, I don't buy a car, I wait until it's completely anonymous because it's dangerous if I drive myself. And that's why I never buy a car until the full automatic car is there. Or you never buy a computer because you know that in 3 years, the computer is much better. And you say, this is the best what we have right now. And why not to go? And I am engineer, and I am part of the engineering communities. All these guys are working always on this race. If somebody invents something bad, they invent something to prevent. And I think it's
a virus. I mean, it started with, well, probably before, but it's the virus, antivirus, and so forth. And from there, it's going to cybersecurity too.
Exactly.
Interesting. So 5G, 6G. Yeah, I know. We jump from one huge topic and we're going to another one that's probably bigger. But yeah, we were discussing this a little bit before, and I really loved your the down to earth and the starting point of it. We're talking about ethics, communication, and obviously technology. I would like to have a little bit of your feedback on it, your vision on 5G, 6G.
Okay. I like 5G and 6G. Okay. Probably I have a mental bias on it because I'm absolutely convinced this is great technologies, very flexible, and they integrate many of the achievement of different technology. It is not anymore just communication as we used to have telecommunication engineers, but they are cloudified, is part of the cloud. It is AI ready. So you can run AI agents in the networks and you can complete tasks which never happen. It's not anymore one network, but it's a network of network, and it's bring interoperability. What we always wanted to achieve with different kind of interfaces, APIs, handovers, and checks and protocols, it is built in. It is built in, and you don't have to think about, I am communicating now via satellite, I am in a terahertz band, in this band. It automatically choosing depending what you expect to accomplish, and this is available on a global scale, interoperable. All chips there, all the manufacturer building 5G, 6G compliant devices. Therefore, you can call everybody. But it's not always was like this, and we forget that because 1G and 2G and even 3G was 3 different standards. CDMA, yeah, 3G, and all this, it not worked. It just partially. And now with 4G, 5G, and as the globalization and the trust between all this ecosystem, it's happened, we came to one standardized system. And this is 5G. And now also for me, it's a reflection of our geopolitical advancements or step backs or side steps, whatever you say, we will see whether this kind of global standard will stay global or the decoupling happening in the economy partially, it would have impact also on communication and the interoperability and standards. I hope not, because it wouldn't good for the world and for the good, because only if we are together with large scale, we have all the benefits of that.
If you were to have some predictions for the future, how do you think like implementation of 6G, who's winning the race, who is already there, and the impact that it may have in the, let's say, midterm?
Wow, this is a very difficult question, and the race is on. So everybody is working in these directions, and I think the global backbone is stay alive. The global standards will be, and if deviation are needed, okay, because for whatever forces require some adjustment, just their own use cases, I really hope that it will happen on the top, but not on the core design of the system. Okay, and if we can maintain such a kind of things, I think it will be a great enabler for every other technologies to come, because in 6G you have different type of networks, terrestrial networks, orbital networks. You are computing units, so in a cross section you can do all the sensor data, which kind of cars, autonomous vehicles coming together, how to route them. What is already happening, and the computing is happening there. You don't have to send in a data center and occupy whatever kind of capacity. It just can be done. It is one example. It's nothing even new, and all this will be decentralized. Again, we are decentralized. It will be secure. Okay, and I don't think that such a kind of technology can be stopped by nature, but you can stop it by regulation. If you make a hard decision, this kind of technology cannot be used in my country. And then we would fall back to proprietary systems. And proprietary systems, then you have to again ask yourself, if you want the best communication device I ever built, or somebody could build in the world, but you have only one, then who you want to communicate it with? Yeah, so you need a network, and then you need the network effect.
A network of networks.
A network, and you don't want to start again to build interfaces to another great proprietary system, and the third proprietary system, and the 125th. And this is what brings 5G, 6G together, and by design, by standard, bringing all the latest and finest AI, blockchain, cloud, you name it, and whatever is to come. So I don't think if we are halfway rational in our globalized mindset that it will be stopped.
So obviously for you to be in this cathartic period right now, when obviously you're not part of Airbus any longer and you're working on something new, obviously I think it's an interesting moment for you to be in that period, right? So if you would like to tell me a little bit what it is actually that you're thinking about doing in your near future.
Okay, it's definitely real-world tokenization is part of it, because real-world tokenization bring in a secure way investment possibilities and democratize things which was not given before. It is like the communication we were talking about. Everybody can participate in a great thing, and with tokenization, you don't have to have 25 million euro in order to invest in a one great thing, but if it's tokenized, you can get a portion for $200. And it means that with $200, you can have the same profit if, of course, the tokenized asset works, because if it not work, tokenized shit is still not good.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah. Obviously, it's linked to the project.
So assuming that the project is behind is reasonable, and this democratization, this is what I think great thing, and decentralization is the third, because you can then make transaction with that centralized third parties, and you have eliminated the third-party risk. Therefore, is for the financial world, it is a big challenge. What does it mean for the financial industry? What does it mean for regulation? And how is it evolving? But we see already that in Dubai, Singapore, Marbella, Portugal, there are tokenized assets being brought to the market in a regulated way. And I think if Europe is now make the right jump on it, then we could be part of it. And that's why Wake Up Europe, your headline, is very good. So it was very appealing to me having this additional comment to the invitation.
Europe is not probably leading the race, I would say. But then finally here we do have an industry that maybe Europe can actually be one of the key players of it. I don't know, what's your take on that?
And you were born in Sweden, and you have a company called Ericsson.
Mm-hmm.
So they are very, 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 very leading on this, and Nokia also. So we have very good stakes, and I hope it's stayed like this. So this is definitely a very good momentum what we have in Europe.
So maybe we are amongst the top players in
We are in the
industries.
top. Yeah, okay. But we have to be careful because the competition never sleeps. And with blockchain, we have also good knowledge. But we tend, in many cases, over-regulate things. And we have a too long transition period, where the transition period, you have to get the pilots done. You have to do, the sandbox created where you safely can make your first steps without hurting yourself, your investors, and your environment. And we have to get this. We want to engage innovation. We want to create early these pilots and the sandbox in order to be prepared for the big thing and not sleeping too long, because all the sandboxes in Saudi, in Dubai, in Singapore, in the US, in California, in Texas, already done, and they are just waiting to the right entry moment, and your tiny little steps will be just overjumped by a giant, and they take the cake.
Obviously, you've been involved in this industry in different continents. So you've got like inside, not information, but you've got knowledge and experience from how it is to operate in, like you just mentioned, like Middle East, China, Europe, US, or America in general. What would you say is, from your point of view, the main differentiators, which makes each one of them unique?
Every continent has great potential, and globalization worked in the last 30 years because we could use these USPs and leverage in vice versa. Okay, but if we are talking such a kind of technologies, we are getting now a very interesting question: the digital dependency. And this is the question where you have to be very careful. And all these technologies living from scale. And if in Europe, a country say, I want to be independent, all digital technologies, I don't know how it can happen without scale. We have to keep one thing in our mind: the unified Europe, okay, all together. And I love this 5%. This is 5% of the world, all together, okay? And there's other 95, and they are also not stupid, and they are very competitive, very innovative, and they want to grab a share of the cake. And therefore is the story of Europe, wake up. Because Europe has two types of countries. I heard this, I don't know where it's coming from, I like it very much. Two types of countries. One type of countries, they know they are small. And another type of European countries, they don't know that they are not big enough for such a game, Putting a little bit numbers behind. One of the European countries, I don't know, is just introduced a technology innovation push and assigned 18 billion euros for innovation. Great thing, isn't it? If you look into in details, so not this 18 billion is for 4 years. And if you look further, it's turned out it is for 8 different technologies, including quantum, including whatever, And if you boil down and you forget for a technology heavyweight company, another one, we shouldn't tell the name, investing just in the running year in one technology, 67 billion. Okay? In 1 year.
Yeah. In one
technology. And one strong European country with dedication and elan to get to the next level put on the table 18 billion with some for 4 years for eight technologies. So that's why together, scalable, every this stuff, network effect, scalability, decentralization.
What do you normally do when you're not working?
I love sport. So I live in Munich. So skiing is in the wintertime is a very good option. I like things where you can play together with other people. For example, I learned golf just recently during the COVID because you were able to get out. Okay. And it's turned out that you have social life around it. I like also windsurfing and a lot of things on waters, sailing. I have a permit, I can drive boats. So this is what I do. And of course, I like to spend time with my family, my wife and 2 kids. They are now getting really, finishing the universities.
Oh,
and
interesting times.
And who knows how long they prefer to get holidays together.
Gotta enjoy it while it lasts, right? So obviously you're here for the event. We've got the Bridge blockchain event right now. How did you come across it, and what was the appeal apart from the sentence that we've mentioned?
So I had the chance to meet Vincent and some other people as organizer, and I shared their vision. So and this is a new type of community where the new drive, the startup mentality comes together, but the really performing part is happening when the old brick and mortar companies applied such a kind of technologies. And because in many of my duties in earlier companies, we try to bring in startup mentality, new technologies within the big corporate. And now in this role, I can meet now the startup scene, the investors, and working with them together, how to pave the way in the best for everybody benefits. And this is exciting, and I am very open to it. I will learn a lot, and we will have for sure good discussions, and I am looking forward to it.
Zoltan, it's been a pleasure. I don't want to take much more of your time. Really excited to have you here. I want to thank you for your time and for people to get to know you a little bit better. And I hope it's not the last time.
I wish so, and thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you for the talk.
Thanks.
Thank you.